Good morning, fourth grade. Today we are going to work on equivalent fractions and equivalent decimals. Now, we already worked with equivalent fractions earlier this year, and we know that fractions that name the same amount are equivalent fractions. So write the equivalent fractions. I already filled them in for you. So 1/3 equals 2/6, or it also equals 4/12. So all three of these fractions are equal. Now, the way that you change 1/3 to 2/6 is to change the denominator from 3 to 2. You multiply by 2, and whenever you do to the denominator, you must do the numerator. So 1 times 2 is 2. And then it's the same thing to go from 6 to 12. You multiply by 2, multiply by 2. If you want to go from 1/3 right to 4/12, you would multiply the denominator 3 by 4, which would be 12, and the numerator 1 by 4, which would give you 4/12. And we've already gone over equivalent fractions earlier this year. Now, equivalent decimals are decimals that name the same amount. So here we have 30 hundredths, which is equivalent to 3/10. And I will show you why that works later on. So our first problem says, Daniel spent a day hiking through a wildlife preserve. During the first hour of the hike, he drank 6/10 liters of water. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? And I'll reread the problem. Daniel spent a day hiking through a wildlife preserve. During the first hour of the hike, he drank 6/10 liters of water. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? So we know that we have 6/10, and we want to multiply that to give us hundredths. We're trying to find hundredths. So I have to think, how can I change my denominator so that my denominator will equal 100? So I have 6/10, right? I need to multiply this. I'll put it as a fraction over so you guys can see exactly how it would look. So if we have 6/10, right? And we want to change this so that it will be equal to a hundredth. And we know that if it's a tenth, it's because the denominator is 10. So for it to be a hundredth, it means the denominator must be 100. So 10 times 10 will give me 100, but I will not just multiply by 10. I'm actually going to be multiplying by 10 over 10, because we know that whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator. Let me make these a little bit bigger so they're easier for you to see. There we go, that's a little bit better. So if we're going to multiply 10 by 10 on the denominator, because we want it to be in hundredths, so we know that that will be equal to, on the bottom, we're going to get 100th, because 10 times 10 equals 100. And the top will be 6 times 10 is 60. And then, as I said, the bottom will be 100. So it will be 60 hundredths. Now, if you want to write it sideways, that's okay, how we've been doing, or you can use the new equation and you can select a fraction to use it that way. So again, we were looking for hundredths. So I had to multiply my tenths by 10, because I knew then that 10 times 10 is 100. And if my denominator is 100, then I know I'm talking about hundredths. So whatever I do to my denominator, I must do to my numerator. So 6 times 10 equals 60. And then I can write this in a nice response, a nice answer statement, because it was given to me as a question. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? He drank 60 hundredths of a liter. So for this question, I had to convert tenths to hundredths in a fraction. And the way that we did that was by changing our denominator. And whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator.